President Obama visits the UK later this week as part of his European tour to get support for his plan to spur democracy after the unrest in North Africa. The President and First Lady Michelle Obama will be guests of the Queen at Buckingham Palace for 3 days. He last met the Queen in April 2009 when he was attending a G20 summit in London. On the agenda will be the war against terrorism and the North African unrest, and I'm sure there'll be much to talk about on the business front as well. Joining me now is the Wales-based American journalist Denis Campbell. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How special is the so-called special relationship between the countries in 2011?
Well, I'm sure the special relationship will be viewed, depending on who you're talking to, rather differently. The fact that you have a conservative Tory Prime Minister and a liberal Democratic United States President, I think, speaks volumes to the fact that he has chosen to stay with Her Majesty as opposed to the traditional residence by the ambassador. So that's step number one. Step number two is I think that there's been a bit of frost of late between the two countries over handling of affairs in Libya, in North Africa. There's been a bit of uncertainty in how they're going to move forward there and abroad. And there has been a bit of underlying tension since the government changed.
To a president whose instincts are more oriented towards multilateralism than any of his predecessors, is the role of the UK strengthened nowadays, would you say?
Well, I think if you look at one of these trips for what they are truly business development junkets. Earlier this year, President Obama went on a huge trip to India. And during that trip, Air Force One was filled with about 30 or 40 very key business owners and executives. And their purpose was, and they managed to take home over $1 billion worth of new business. I think this trip is largely going to be economically perhaps beneficial to Wales from the perspective of, yes, there are business people coming that they can talk to. The problem is that, of course, they're not coming to Wales for any part of the trip itself.
Missed opportunity, would you say, for perhaps the Welsh Assembly government knowing that this tour was happening? Should they have invited a delegation here to Cardiff, for example?
Well, it would have been very helpful. I mean, the ministers are known. The trade minister for the United States Embassy is known a year in advance, and there should be very strong relationships with that part. Obviously, the enlightened self-interest of the United States in these talks is to get as much business as they can, but we should be putting a much better foot forward through our own efforts and through our own economic development efforts to build Wales and to showcase it as a place where there's a good labour pool, there's strong education and ability, and we seem to be missing the boat there.
You've mentioned the conflict between the countries. One area of difference has been the austerity measures. President Obama has been on a slower mission, if you like, to cut the deficit compared to David Cameron. How have those factors played out in America compared to here, where we're seeing cuts to public services?
Well, I mean, I wish we had public services in the United States. That's been the biggest problem, is that if you look at the fairly radical agenda inside of the various state houses across the United States, it's not just President Obama's agenda. The fact that the GOP, the Republicans, had such a strong gain in the November election, they've also taken over several state houses, and that's why you see the unrest in Wisconsin and Michigan and in all the states, because they are pushing through a very radical austerity agenda, where on the other hand they're also giving enormous tax cuts to businesses and people who finance their campaigns. So it's a much more difficult issue. They're not going to follow on the austerity, I don't think.
Denis Campbell, we'll have to end it there. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all from me this week. Politics Show is having a half-term break next Sunday, but we will be back the following Sunday at the usual time of midday. But don't forget that there is AM/PM during the week, as well as Dragon's Eye on Thursday. But that's all from me for this week. It's now back to John in London. Bye for now.